Hello guys, welcome to Frame Focus. I'm Tom Bryant, and you're probably wondering why I'm not standing in front of you today. It is because I am actually going to be behind the camera, and I'm going to show you a little bit about controlling the light that comes into your camera using Aperture. That's right, using Aperture. Today we're at the Hall of Springs in Saratoga. It's a beautiful place, it's a beautiful day, and let's get to it. So hopefully you enjoy this video, and let's have some fun with it. All right, let's go. So as you know, there are multiple ways to control light in and out of your camera to properly expose for an image and for a picture. As you know, before we've talked about ISO range and how the film sensitivity allows for the proper quality of your film, of your photo in the end, in terms of how much grain and how much light is being exposed on the film, as well as I guess we did talk a little bit also about shutter speed and aperture too, but those are basically the three ways of controlling light. We're using either ISO, we're using aperture, or shutter speed to get the proper exposure, or to get the exposure that we want. When I say proper, I don't really mean balanced exposure necessarily. I mean the correct exposure that we want for our creativity. So let's jump back into Aperture. We'll talk a little bit more about that and how that creates a successful and creative photo. Let's do it. All right, guys, so we're outside, and what is Aperture? Aperture is the iris or the device on the lens that allows a certain amount of light in to properly expose the film or to properly expose for the sensor for the picture that we're taking. So for example, we're outside right now. I'm using the Google Glass, and as you can see, it's a beautiful day, blue sky, super bright outside. Now if we had the aperture wide open on a day like today, we would have a super overexposed film, a super overexposed image. So what it's doing now with the Google Glass is actually properly adjusting the aperture so that we can get a really nice, beautifully exposed image. So it's taking the aperture and it's stopping it down, it's closing it up. It's closing it up just like our eyes. And that allows us to get just a beautiful overall quality. Now, once we move into the shadows, you can see now it's actually changing and properly exposing for the shadows. Now what it's doing now, the aperture is opening wide. It's opening up nice and wide, and we're getting just a beautiful image in front of us. But what ends up happening is the camera has to either expose for the shadow or the highlights. It really can't expose for both. Not really. That's something that the photographer needs to do. So what it's doing now, if you can see in front of us, you see the shadows and you see how the light outside is overexposed. See, that's what's happening right now. The aperture is wide open, and it's allowing the proper light for the shadows, but not for the highlights. So let's step back outside one more time. You'll see what happens. See how it's overexposed, and all of a sudden, it becomes properly exposed again. And this is kind of the basic fundamentals of how Aperture works. Now shutter speed works sort of the same way, but we're not going to get into that right now. Let's show you a little bit more, some more examples of what Aperture is, what the numbers are, what the numbers mean, and we can go from there. All right, guys, well, we're here at the Gideon Putman Hotel in Saratoga, and wanted to kind of make my way around SPAC a little bit, way around the Hall of Springs, and we are going to be talking about FStop numbers. I hate talking about numbers because when I was a kid, I can remember despising mathematics and numbers in general. And when someone told me that you need to know your numbers, in particular your aperture numbers, in order to get the proper look and proper exposure, I freaked out and I thought to myself, this is not going to work out for me. So what I wanted to talk about was very basically the different range of numbers, okay? Numbers on your aperture ring or on your lens can range quite variably. It can be anywhere down to a 1.2, a 1.4, up to a 2.0, 2.8, a 4, 5.6, 8, those kind of things. And the numbers range in terms of size. So when we're talking about a 1.8 size, we're talking about an aperture that's pretty wide open. But when we talk about stopping it down and we want to talk about getting less light in our lens, we are talking about collimating or bringing it tighter in, closing that iris down. So for example, here would be a 1.8, and then here would be a 4, a 5, 6, an 8, an 11, and so on. And to the point of it actually limiting the amount of light coming in to your lens. So let's take a look at a few different examples of that, a few different examples of a 1.8 and a 2.0 and a 2.8 and so on and so forth. And it'll give you a better idea in terms of what that does to the image. Let's take a look. All right, so I see an opportunity here to really get a nice isolation photograph with the empty bench we have in front of us and the trees in the background. So let me show you how we're doing that. What I mean by isolation is I'm going to use a shallow depth of field, so I'm going to use about a 1.8 to get this. And I'm going to basically get as much of the bench in focus as possible, and then I'm going to try to blur everything else out, create a nice soft bokeh. So let's take a look here, what we've got on our camera. I'm not sure if you can see it. There we are. On our camera, let's get a little closer. You can see I've got the bench here, and we're at 1/3200th of a second, 1.8 f-stop. So again, we're shallow depth of field. Let's take this photograph. We'll see what we come out with. Take another one. All right, so we're on this golf course, and I wanted to show you the opposite of shallow depth of field. I want to show you deep depth of field or maximum depth of field. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to get as much of the foreground, middle, and background in focus as possible. So what I did was I set up my camera. I know you can't see the screen behind, but I set it up so that we have a 1/100th of a second. We had an f11 and ISO 100. So remember, f11, the higher the number in the f-stop, is going to give you more of a complete focus from foreground to background. Less bokeh, more clarity of focus. So let's take a look here. Let's get down low. Let's get a picture. I'm going to focus right on that white point right there. And we're going to shoot. And we're going to see what happens one more time. Awesome. Take a look at that. Let's see what that looks like. All right, guys. So we're going to go back to the studio. We're going to do a little review, see what we came up with. And hopefully we can answer some of your questions as we go along. But let's head on back. I think we had a great day out. Let's go from there. Hey guys, thanks again for watching this video. We really hope you got something out of it. We hope you had fun watching it too. We certainly had fun making it, so we're going to keep doing it until you say no. We want to leave you with a few photographs that we took, some of our weddings and some of the engagement sessions that we've done. So we're going to leave them just after this exit. Again, please like us on Facebook, like us on YouTube, subscribe to us. Without you subscribers, we are not we wouldn't be what we are. So thank you guys again, and we love you. Next time you see us, we're going to be talking more about Aperture. We're going to go a little bit deeper in depth with that, and then we are also going to jump into shutter speed. We're going to talk briefly about that as well. So see you again next time, and have fun.